We now get to the last session of the day before we break for lunch. We have Angelo Scorza, who will be moderating this session. He is the editor-in-chief of Ship to Shore. His publication is very well known, and I have no doubt this is going to be another very interesting topic because of what is happening with regards to this famous OBOR, or the Silk Road, and the way things are evolving in the sense that the Chinese seem to be making a lot of inroads and are moving ahead, while perhaps some other countries, including the European Union, may either be falling back or not taking too much of this Silk Road very seriously, only probably to see the repercussions later on. I therefore now leave it in the capable hands of Angelo to conduct the next session. Thank you very much, Angelo.
Thank you very much, John. Thanks, everybody, for staying with us. I know that we are the last hindrance between you and the lunch, so I hope we will be interesting enough to keep you alive for these 45 minutes. So, I thank you to John for the invitation to moderate this interesting panel, which in its original composition was supposed to have two more members, actually, somebody from Nigeria, somebody from Turkey. They couldn't come, but I do not regret for that, because in my opinion, 3 is the perfect number. We are waiting for our last panelist, Mr. Buamim, who's coming now. And then I also have the great privilege of moderate 2 ladies, so you can say, lucky me. So, we have Anna Maria Darmanin. We already have seen her this morning. She is the Secretary General of the European Tag Owners Association. Then we have another Anna, so we have 2 Anna today, but in Italy everybody calls her Arianna Buonfanti. She comes from Naples. She's a researcher from the SRM and Maritime Economy Observatory. And last but not least, you have heard his intervention a few seconds ago, quite interesting. Mr. Khamis Juma Buamim is the Managing Director of Gulf Navigation Holding from Dubai. Okay, so the theme of the day is very, very interesting, in my opinion, is new market opportunities for global operators in an evolving geopolitical scenario. And the subtitle is even more intriguing. The One Belt, One Road, or you can call it Belt Road Initiative, which essentially is a revival of the old Silk Road, and its impact on the European community and the UK. This last panel will be a little different from the previous ones, because I want the help of Arianna, who's going to make a short but very interesting presentation, giving us some facts and figures. And upon this, we can make our comments and discussion. So please, Arianna, you can start with your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the Malta Maritime Summit organization for this invitation. I'm very honored to be here and to give my scientific contribution. Okay? This is the topics of my presentation, and sorry. Okay, this slide sums up the main statistic data in Mediterranean Sea. In the period between 1995 and 2017, there was a significant increase of container traffic, which grew by 500%. It is important to highlight that 20% of the global shipping traffic transits in Mediterranean Sea. Then, the infographic shows the volume of short sea shipping traffic, which reached approximately 600 million tons of cargo. Finally, the slide also shows the presence of 19 megaports, each one handling 1 million TEUs and over. Overall, the slide illustrates how the Mediterranean Sea is increasing its centrality in the global economy. Let's move on to the LSCI of UNCTAD. It is a very friendly index of competitiveness. In particular, this slide analyzes the average score 2004-2017 in the LSCI. It measures competitiveness in maritime system in terms of network and quality of the liner services offered by ports. The graph shows a comparison between three groups of countries which are competitors in maritime sector. Northern Range, the blue line, North-Mediterranean, the red line, and the North African and Turkey, the yellow line. North African ports gained 33 basic points in the span analyzed, while North-Mediterranean ports rose by 14 basic points, and Northern Range ports grew by 9 basic points. Thus, the competitiveness of North African ports showed the greatest increase between 2004-2017, and this is a threat which Nord-Med ports will have to face in the next future. Okay. This slide, this diagram shows the market shares of container sector by port areas in 2008, inner circle, and 2017, outer circle. It is important to highlight that Northern Range ports lost 6 percentage points in this period, from 46% to 40%. On the other hand, East, West, and South Med gained traffic and grew by 5%, 1%, and 1% respectively. I would like to move on to the container sector and point out that this showed two slight falls in its growth, 1.2% in 2015 and 3.1% in 2016. Despite this, SRM estimates that future trends will be significantly positive, with an expected average growth of 5% in the period 2017-2022. This is a diagram related to Suez Canal. This slide illustrates some statistics about southbound cargo. Southbound cargo traffic via Suez has been showing a dramatic increase, in particular towards Arabian Gulf, 431%. The main market of origin of this cargo is Northwest Europe and the UK. Next slide is related to northbound cargo. Northbound cargo traffic via Suez has been showing a dramatic increase too, in particular towards Southeast Med. The main market of origin is Southeast Asia. And now, we are analyzing another phenomenon which is shaping the global shipping scenario. It is the naval gigantism. This infographic reports the data from Alphaliner. Alphaliner is an English consultant company, and it shows that 129 new ships will sail by 2019 in the 23,000 TEU sites, and 57 of these belong to 23,000 TEU sites. This means that naval gigantism will play a crucial role also in the next years. We can see the dramatic growth of the ship sites between 1975 and 2017. To receive megaships, a port needs a complex strategy that is comprised of berth availability, productivity, draft, catch area, rail feeder connections, public and private investments. Despite this, the phenomenon of gigantism has not stopped, and other ports are making investment to become ready for megaships. And this is the phenomenon of the big alliances. In this slide, I'm using the containers to represent each company that takes part in an alliance. This illustrates the phenomenon of the big alliances, which control 81% of the global container market. And now I'm going to show you a set of geomaps that represent an innovative method of research SRM started in 2017. These maps, in general, focus on the daily positions of ships in the world. This map focuses on the Ocean Alliance. You can see the routes of this alliance in 2012. And now I'm going to show you these routes changed after 5 years. I come back so you can see the difference. This is the situation in 2017. It is important to highlight that considerably increased traffic the Ocean Alliance recorded in the Med area, which accounted to 27% on 2012. The presence of ships in Piraeus port, object of COSCO investment, in 2017 increased by 74% on 2012. I show you the difference for the last time. And now, there is another geomaps. Okay. These geomaps show a variation of naval density in 2 years, 2012 and 2017. As you can see, the first important difference is that there is a higher presence of ships on the route connected Port Said, Marsaxlok, where we are, and Tangermet. This is 2017. Since 2012, the presence of container ships in Mediterranean over 13,000 TEU size increased by 37%, and in the range 3,000, 7,000 TEU size decreased by 18.7%. This is a potential risk for Italian ports, as they might be cut out of the major global routes. However, there is a positive point to highlight for Italy. As you can see in the white circle, in 2017, traffic increased in the Adriatic and Tyrrhenian Sea. I want to show you the difference. Adriatic wasn't in 2012, and 2017, Adriatic is more intense. I would like to quickly address a very important aspect within the current global shipping scenario. I am talking about the role of China. This graph clearly shows trade relations between China and the MENA countries started to increase in 2002. The dark blue line indicates a steady growth until 2013. Therefore, we can say that BRI was not the only factor contributing to the intensification of trade relations between these countries. And now, I want to show you the Belt and Road Initiative, the topic of this session. As you can see from the pie chart on the right of the slide, investment planned until June 2018 amounted to $146 billion. 6% of these funds were allocated to the MENA area. If you take a look at the bar graph below, you can see that 13% of this investment have been made in ports. And now, the presence of China in the Med ports is particularly relevant thanks to significant investments in many Mediterranean and European ports. The slide shows this presence as if on a chessboard, where ports are represented by chess pieces according to their strategic function and role. Firstly, the most important piece and the most significant stronghold in East Med for China is Piraeus, represented by the king in this slide. The port of Valencia is the queen because it makes it possible to control West Med traffic. On the chessboard, the two bishops move. They are Rotterdam in the northern range and Abu Dhabi in the UAE, moving in a diagonal direction to help penetrate Central Europe and the Middle East. They are moving. And now, the knights, Genoa, Trieste, and Venice, move in an L pattern to help goods enter Western and Eastern Europe. Okay? And finally, Suez Canal and Amberley are represented by rooks because they control, respectively, the transit through Suez and Black Sea. All the other significant Chinese investments are represented by pawns. And now, some numbers about the importance of BRI for Italy's economy. This slide shows the import-export between Italy and BRI countries. In the period 2009-2017, import-export with BRI countries increased by 55.2%. 8 years, 55.2%. The import-export with the world average increased by 6.7%. And export grew by 53.4%. Otherwise, the average growth of export with the world was 13.4%. And there is the last phenomenon I want to show you. And it is free zones. Free zones represent a remarkable innovation also for the Italian maritime system. For the first time in our country's history, the law will allow to establish special economic zones with the specific aim of attracting foreign investment. These areas will boast direct access to one or more ports and new infrastructure supporting export-oriented economic activities. Moreover, a series of incentives will be offered to investors, and this will include customs, income tax, and cost of labor. In particular, every special economic zones will have 50 million euros in tax discounts to offer companies, and the local region will be allowed to add resources to this figure. Last but not least, investors in these zones will also benefit from streamlined bureaucracy procedures with considerably reduced time in comparison with other areas. And it is the last slide. It is our dream. Port 5.7. The new port, the new model of port. Nowadays, it is crucial to implement a modern port model that comprises all the 5 sectors, illustrated in this diagram. Firstly, the port needs to be open to international trade, which has to be encouraged and favored by specific and dedicated departments. Secondly, infrastructure have to be planned and designed with an eye to different modes of transport, so that the port can strengthen relations with the whole geographic area. Then, innovation must be systematically pursued through regular training of personnel and constant support to start-up companies. And finally, it is of utmost importance to connect the port area to a free zone in order to attract investment. I want to conclude my presentation with these topics, because these are some of the issues that are still to be discussed and investigated. That's
okay.
all.
Thank you a lot, Arianna gave us a lot of facts and figures, maybe even too much, and you focus your analysis on the container trade, which is the most appealing also considering from the newspaper point of view. But as Mr. Procopio would say, there is also the Trump sector, and as Khamis would say, there is the chemical sector. So, can we summarize your presentation in a few key words? So, for instance, gigantism,
alliances,
consolidation of the industry. I want to give some food for thought to our panelists. Consolidation, alliances.
And the interest of China for Mediterranean, and the enlargement of Suez Canal. These are I think that these are the main factors that are increasing the centrality of Mediterranean in this moment. And in its centrality in terms of shipping, its centrality in terms of interest from the other countries for this area.
So these are the key words we must keep in our mind when we make our discussion. So the Silk Road Initiative is something more than just an infrastructure project, as we know. It's something like an offense of China, of course in a Pacific way, but it has also some strategic and military scope as well. And how can the old world, Europe, react to this offense? Is it more a risk or an opportunity? And I'm quite curious to see what our panelists will say, because this morning we learned from Anna Maria that she said to be the voice of pessimism. She said that Europe is quite weak. There's a lot of weak points. While Khamis, in his intervention, said that he sees the glass half full. So even Trump and Brexit and all the other threats can be opportunities for the shipping sectors. So first, Anna Maria. Did you get impressed from this presentation, from what I said?
Okay. First of all, I'm generally not a pessimist. I'm a critic. Okay. Let's put it this way. I try to call a spade a spade. And yeah, in tying up with this morning and also with the presentation we have seen, I think what is most impressive is also, as you said, that this was a strategic approach. Whereas Europe reacted to the Belt and Road Initiative as an opportunity for trade. From China, it was always a strategic approach. And it was not, as you put in your last slide, seeking return of investment in terms of their trade, but it is a political approach. And I loved the way you put a chessboard and explained it in that way.
Can we reproduce the slide with the chessboard, please, from the presentation? Because it is quite interesting, maybe to fix it in our mind. Please go on, anyway.
Yeah, so I love the way, because I had never seen it as a chessboard, and also the analogy with the different structures in a chessboard, but you put it really nicely. And over time, we have been seeing China doing these investments in Europe, and it's only now that we're getting shaken about it all and getting weary about it all for security reasons, but also realizing there's going to be a lack of control on some critical aspects. And it is only this time round that in the State of the Union speech we get a cautionary voice from Europe saying we need to be careful of our most critical and important assets, and therefore start protecting. Without using the word protecting, I'm putting that word onto it. So I think in terms of Europe, we're becoming weary about it a little bit too late, but it is what it is. And we cannot do anything about it other than now look at what opportunity we can make and how to salvage it. And as Fortis has said before, the negotiations we will be doing with China. From an industry perspective, stakeholders in these last couple of years have been putting up alarm bells, seeing that specific ports, specific assets are being China-owned. And it is a concern not only from a political perspective, but also a competitive perspective. If you were to take, for example, now which ports are being owned and how the shipping lines will be going through these ports, it affects the whole chain. it doesn't only affect the containers or the tankers or whatever goods are being moved, but it will affect the ports and the services within the ports. So if you were to take my sector, which is already the tug sector in harbors, it's already impacted with what you have shown, which is megaships, because now the tug sector has to adapt to megaships. That means it has to invest in bigger tugs to deal with megaships, but also it has to strategically think of which ports to be in. This means smaller companies who operate in only one port may soon go out of business because the port cannot be deep enough to have these ships enter into the port. So it means that you have a choice of ports which is already limited by megaships. But now when you have alliances of shipping, which will affect which ports will be called in, but also China, who is controlling specific assets, all these will have an impact of where trade will go and will ultimately have a severe impact on specific players, including port services. So in terms of my sector, but also the other port services sector, it is a rethinking of how we're doing business, but also parallel to the alliances you see happening in shipping, you will see alliances happening in my sector as well to deal with this. And the reality is that the bigger ones are the ones that survive. And the ones that try to create an alliance are the ones that survive. The rest, and it is a reality, will start falling by the side.
So we cannot say small is beautiful, not always.
Sadly, no, no. But yeah, it's all been dictated by even the shipping alliance. Okay. It just cascades. Okay. So I'm trying to be a realist, and there is opportunity, but there also is big risks, and this is where the sector needs to be very forward-looking. But we also rely on effective negotiations of our policymakers.
Okay, thank you, Anna Maria. Khamis, before starting our session, I went rapidly through your CV, and I learned that you have been able to do an excellent job with your company, gas navigation company. As far as I know, it's the only Dubai-based shipping company listed at the stock exchange. So you showed to be able to grasp opportunities in the past. Can you elaborate a little more what you said in the previous session? Where are the opportunities, in your opinion, to grasp? Where to focus your attention?
I think the reality of the matter has been brewing for a long time, what you've seen today. It's nothing new. If you look back at history, we understand that global trade and economics has shifted from west to east. This drove a lot of industry, including restriction that applied by the EU itself for countries in Europe, whether from an environmental standpoint or emission standpoint, or even structural in certain areas and certain places. So what happened to the steel industry, what happened to the coal industry, what happened to the manufacturers and all this, it's a shift. The dynamics has changed. The knowledge base that existed in the West and the know-how in the RD and all of this also transferred where it's been produced somewhere else and then imported back. So the fact of the matter is, what we're looking at is whether you lead or bleed process. And you got no choice. Anyone who thinks that he can turn the tide is insinuation. There is three factors: change, innovation, and transformation. And that's what you see in the world. You can ride the wave and you'll get something out of it. You could try to be in front of it. It's going to become like a tsunami and just throw you in other shores you don't want to be. The fact of the matter, economics has changed. And we got to realize that. There are transformation happening around regions such as the Middle East, Africa to be, Far East, and no doubt all Asia is going also through a positive transformation. Now, what happens? Why are we worried about the Chinese? In some cases, I heard the other day, invasion almost. Well, the Chinese have a policy. They are progressing very rapidly. They're creating opportunities for themselves, for their country, for their people, for their economy. And accordingly, they're trying to reach certain areas where the West, EU, failed. It is not them. The practices of what you've done historically, let's say in Africa, be it, or even in certain part of the Middle East, certain part in Asia, did not work. So now what they are doing is they're reaching basically 60% of the global population through their route, whether the sea route or the land route. That represents over 49% of the GDP, of the global GDP. So behold what's happening. That's what they're doing. They're building infrastructure that these countries cannot afford to build. You look at Sri Lanka, you look at Pakistan, you look at all ex-USSR countries because of the train station and the train terminals. They cannot do it. So there is an investment. There is, of course, a return. Value could be between 30 to 90 years of return on these projects, to China, of course. But the other important factor is, we look at, everybody talks about Trump in the West, and the West is not doing anything about it. I met Trump 3 times when he was not in the presidency. I actually thought he will win, and he did. And I'm glad he did, because you needed a balance. The world was running on one engine called China. You needed another engine to start picking up, to move on. And that is the US. US for a long time stayed out. They talk politics, but no impact on the economy. Today, look what's happening. It's changing. Now, lots of people think everybody is trying to dismiss him for different reasons. But from an economical standpoint, he is actually negotiating things that have been done 30, 40 years ago. It's an old-style management, an old-style agreement, an old-style. It's not today's. The world is transformed. Britain wants to come out. I think it's good for it. Why? Because it cannot anymore handle this restriction that applied by the EU. EU is running a different institution that run by other institutions. So let's change that fundamentals. Let's take advantage of what's offered. What's offered is you can be positive with it, react positively, you can gain out of it because it is actually an inducer to a different economical brand. Now, whether be it US-based, China-based, or even for what to be. We in the United Arab Emirates, yes, we are participating, and we did participate in the Asian Bank for investment. Same as many countries, including Malta, participated in it, by the way. So it's nothing new. So why are we hiding or saying what's China is doing? You participated in that bank because it has a potential positive impact in your economy. Every country, most countries, if not most countries of Europe actually participated in that bank, including Italy. So let's be more positive about the potential. Now, with one addition, China is looking for certain things to expand its boundaries of economy, infrastructure. It has a lot of opportunity that need to be delivered and is going about it the right way as far as they're concerned. You may not agree with it, but if you talk to them, you'll find them very positively, accepting what you are challenging, and they would like to work with you. In the UAE, when we started the discussion, I remember part of the discussion was into certain areas of trade processes. And the main reason for that, it was Africa. They failed in Africa, by the way, the Chinese, for your information, miserably. Okay? After spending a lot of money the wrong way, because they have the three, I don't know if they change, I hope they change, because they have three practices they have. They'll give you the money, you have to buy their product, their companies and their people who do the business, i.e. you just sit and wait until they deliver everything, and then they'll levy on you 30 years of potential return. So they changed that philosophy. Now they are taking advantage of the Middle East, the UAE mainly, Abu Dhabi and Dubai, to re-enter Africa in a different manner. They also taken very much advantage of the UAE relationship with Egypt and the existence of what's happening around our region, the geopolitical, and they're impacting positively the Canal of Suez, as you call it. And there will be a depot, a huge depot also transforming things to the Paris in Greece. These are all practical happening, and they will not stop because they are part of a growth cycle, whether you call it Chinese investment, you call it other, but it's actually every one of us investment because we are participating in the bank that delivering these actual project and infrastructure. I think the Middle East also has an important play. Strategically, most companies in the Middle East, especially the oil and gas sector, is being controlled by the government. Today, they are looking at diversification. Part of the diversification that they inducted, that some of this sector will go IPO to the public, and therefore, they will rebalance their targeted capital expenditure going forward. When you look at Aramco, Aramco is going to invest over $400 billion in petrochemical and chemical, including refineries in China, Indonesia and Malaysia, Vietnam, India, and the US. So they would like to outreach. They'll send their product, i.e. the oil, to these refineries where it will be refined in their own refinery and distributed through different means, which could be part of it is actually their distribution network. Same thing the UAE is doing. The UAE will be spending $110 billion over its, the coming 5 to 7 years in expanding its chemical capacity and petrochemical capacity and increasing the refining across the board, which include the Indian project, which is 50-50 with Saudi Arabia or Aramco. And therefore, you can see a huge thing happening. Many of the international companies, and I must say, which is include Dow, including other international companies, they're actually joining hand. And this is important. It's not Chinese anymore. This is where you have to think. What's happening there, yes, there is 1 or 2 Chinese companies, but the rest of them is all Western, the big sisters, part of the top big sisters in the world in the oil and gas. They are participating in this project. So things is moving. The dimension is, can we keep the momentum going? And can this momentum also bring out the best for everybody? Now, the bottom line, most, if not all, product around our region, in the olden days, it used to be west. Now it's going east. So therefore, we have too much interest in the Far East, including the Chinese connectivity, than anymore with the West. And this paradigm shift is happening because of trade interlocking. And as we look forward, I think there is still a lot of opportunity that can be attained. And I think, change is a positive contributor when you understand it. And also change doesn't have to be political anymore. We had enough of politics. We know where politics take us. Bottom line of politics is war. Look at economics, you have it a different way. You have it. He just, by the way, when people is concerned, which I heard today, they just signed, basically an interesting agreement between Canada, US, and Mexico. And I think that's brilliant, because it renegotiated the dimension of that all the three will share basically growth potential. That's the bottom line. That's what they're talking about. I don't want my industry to die just because it's in northern Canada can flourish or Mexico can flourish. We will have an integrated processes where we all can. European can do that. Also, with US, be it Middle East, China, and I think it's a good, let's think about it. Maybe it's a good start of thinking how you can do all of this. But I think everybody is going to be a winner in the end of the day, despite the difficulties that people may see. The challenge is there. The opportunity is massive. It depends who takes it.
Everybody said will be a winner. I mean, any kind of operator. This is a question going also to Arianna and Anna Maria. I mean, who can you see as the most probable winner? The shipping companies, the integrated logistic operator. We know that, for instance, the German railways already take advantage of the land transport. Yeah. Who is, in your opinion, the winner of the future? Arianna, can you say something about it?
I think that operators that integrate their activities are probably the winner of the future, because in this way they reduce their risk in the different sector in which they operate, and in this way they exit winners from this game, this important game that is changing the world. Carriers are important companies, but in this period they are front of strategies to have economies of scale. So the redditivity of this sector in this period is not very high. Integrated activities probably is the secret of success in this sector. This is my opinion.
Anna Maria, do you have any remark on what Khamis said before? And if not, I can make you straight the question.
No, it's just fascinating listening to you, because it's also fascinating to listen to another perspective, and also a non-European perspective, and also the critical approach towards Europe. But I think also in what you said, and tying with the previous panel, and possibly how slow Europe is in certain things, and this may be one of the positives for Brexit for the UK, is that the UK will be able to do quicker deals and react quicker when it comes to trade and when it comes to dealing with China. So I would say that is for the UK one of the opportunities they have, and you have indirectly mentioned that by saying how slow Europe can be. But I do think that even the Brexit case itself should have been more of an introspective exercise for the EU. And we were missing that opportunity as well of learning from why the British decided to leave.
I've got one more question for you. We know that China, in implementing this Belt Road Initiative project, has signed agreement with each country separately. So there are something like 75 agreements. For instance, Italy has not signed yet, if I'm not wrong. You represent the European Tech Owners Association. I don't know how united you are as an association, but I want to ask you something from a political point of view. In your opinion, should the European Union have a more common approach to the Belt Road Initiative? Should we have more cohesion? What is your...
Okay, here I'm saying my personal opinion.
Yeah, personal opinion, not official.
It's not my association's position, but as a personal opinion, I am a firm believer of what Europe was meant to be. And I believe in the project which is Europe, but unless we move forward as Europe in our decision-making process, we're going to be stifled. And I believe in a coherent approach to trade. It has to be a European approach to trade. But as long as we have member states who are looking primarily for their own interest, we cannot achieve that. So this is where I think the crossroads for Europe is, deciding what are we as a union and how do we want to approach these global challenges.
Okay.
That is a personal opinion.
Okay, now we are getting short of time. There is just a question time if anybody from the floor has something to ask to our panelists. Otherwise, if there is nothing else to add, I would thank Khamis, Anna Maria, Arianna for their intervention here. And thank you for the attention. And I leave the word to John. Thank you.
And thank you, Angelo.